Okay, I'm on page 154 if you're following along in the textbook. And I think I'm not going to take the time to graph this one. If you're looking at the textbook, you can see the graph. If not, it's okay. We can still do this problem. This is example 2, and we're using a graph to find a slope. So on this first one, it wants us to find the slope. So the first thing I need to do is get some points off the graph. And you see that there's 0.21 and 0.6, -4. So let's go ahead and do this. And then let's apply our slope formula. So m equals, say it with me, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And then I will use those points to fill in the values. y2 is -4, y1 is 1, x2 is 6, x1 is 2. So we end up with a -5 over 4. And that's the slope of the line shown in that graph, or the slope of the line with these points. Okay, the next example is talking about slopes from equations and tables. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. There's a table there. It's not a very big table, but it's a little bigger than that. So let me just start over. It has 4 rows. One of them is a header row. So let's draw that in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have x's and y's. And we have a -4, 0. That is going to be the x-intercept. 2 and 3. 6 and 5. And we don't have to graph, we just have to calculate the slope. So I'm going to pick 2 points. I think I'll use this one and this one. You could use any 2 of them. I'm going to call this x1 and this x2, and then y1 and y2. And let's set up the slope formula. So we have slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. y2 is 3, y1 is 0, x2 is 2, x1 is -4. So you end up with a 3 over a 6, and that simplifies down to 1/2. So the slope of this line would be 1/2 positive. Okay. And let me take a look here. Choose a value for one variable and solve for the value of the other variable, then use the slope formula. Okay, the next example that I want to do, we are given this equation. 12x plus 3y is 6. Now, this particular equation is in standard form, and so we're going to have to do some calculations here. Let me just take a look at this textbook example. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit of reasoning in this one. Let's go ahead and set up an XY table. And this time, I only need 2 points, so let's just make space for 2. If you don't need a bunch of points, don't go to the trouble of getting them. So we're going to say x and y. And I'm going to rewrite my formula. And I'm just going to pick some numbers at random. Now remember, I want those numbers to be small because they're easier to work with. And also if I have to graph, it's going to hover around origin, usually. So I'm going to pick a 0 and a 1 for this problem. Now remember, that's my x value. So let's substitute 0 in for x and see what we get for y. So I just picked 0 out of thin air, and let's see what happens when x is 0. So 12 times nothing is nothing, and we're left with 3y equaling 6. So if I divide both sides by 3, I will get a y value of positive 2. So that gives me a point. Now if I get another point, I can find slope. So when x is 0, y is 2. Let's do it one more time, where we have 12x plus 3y equals 6. And this time I'm going to let the x be 1. So I'll plug in the 1, and we get a 12 plus 3y is 6. Then you subtract the 12 from both sides and cancel. So you're left with 3y equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 3 to get y by itself, and you end up with y is negative 2. So when x is 1, y is negative 2. And I'll just bring that back over here. And now we can find slope because we have 2 points. So I'm going to use these 2 points that we just found. And let's label them x1 and x2, and y1 and y2. And then let's go to m equals, say it with me, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Substitute the values in. y2, y1, x2, x1, and simplify. So negative 4 over 1, the slope would be negative 4. And that's what they were wanting us to find in the example. So slope is negative 4. So there are 3 different examples. The first one, we were finding the slope from a graph in the textbook. The second one, we found the slope from a table of values. And the third one, we found slope from an equation. So you can get the points from different sources, but the slope formula will help you find the slope.